Ah, the Christmas holidays. What a wonderful time of the year. Everybody's happy. Everybody's nice to each other. But you know, that Christmas spirit can be pretty quickly deflated, as I found out this past week when I went to the post office to mail a package. Of course, there was a long line, which you would expect. However, there were only 2 postal employees working the counter, and the other 2 windows were unmanned, not open. So I'm standing in line, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I say to the person standing next to me, yeah, I guess this Christmas rush must have caught them by surprise. Maybe they didn't know each year that this happens. I mean, come on, can they not get some help? I mean, no wonder people are going postal. And it's not the postal workers at Christmas time, it's the customers trying to get in there to mail something. But Christmas spirit can deflate pretty quickly. In fact, I read recently in the USA Today that you can now purchase gift cards at tattoo parlors and strip clubs. Nothing says Merry Christmas quite like a lap dance or a new tattoo. Eeh. Now, if you have young kids, or if you have grandkids, you probably have been to a Christmas program or 2 at school for your kids, right? Been to, I can't tell you how many of these. The only one I remember, they're all pretty boring and uneventful. The one I remember is where a kid barfed and another kid walked by and slipped and fell in it. It's like, okay, this was worth coming to this one. I remember one time one of my kids, Michael, had a friend over from school to spend the night, and they're both, 7 or 8 years old, and I said kiddingly, hey, you guys want to go over to the mall and get your picture taken with Santa? And this kid goes, duh, that's not Santa Claus. I thought, oh, no, he doesn't believe in Santa. And he said, what do you think, we are stupid? The real Santa Claus lives at the North Pole. Oh, you're right. Yeah, why would we go to the mall? Someone has thought of a kind of a creative way to maybe update, the Christmas experience with shopping. Like there's a Christmas bag like this one. I guess it bites you maybe if you spent too much money. I don't know. Or one that you can carry your headphones in. It's kind of creative there. You get the idea. Or maybe one that is from the gun shop. I'm not sure if this is concealed carry or what that would be considered. Here's one from maybe Victoria's Secret or something like that. I don't know. Here's one from a small appliance store. Here's one from like one of those hair salon deals. And I'm not sure what this last one's from. That may be from the caveman store or something. I don't know. Well, thanks for coming today. We only have 2 days until Christmas, and I want to talk this morning briefly about the subject of peace. Peace, inner peace, is one of the best things to have and one of the hardest things to achieve. One French historian estimated that from the 15th century BC to his own day, there had been 3,313 years of war and only 227 years of peace. That's 13 years of war for every 1 year of peace. And every one of us here have seen our country at war during our lifetimes. From World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Bosnia, Africa, Ireland, Russia, the Middle East. I mean, it's just everywhere, So whatever happened to this idea of peace on earth and goodwill to men? What about the peace that the angels proclaim? When you think about it, even Jesus, who was called the Prince of Peace, came into a world pretty much void of peace. The Roman army was in power over Israel and regularly used their power to exploit and oppress the Jewish people. In the Jewish people, Judaism, their religion, had been overtaken by pious and self-righteous Pharisees. At the same time, King Herod was on a rampage and eventually ordered the execution of every male child in and around Bethlehem that was 2 years old or younger. Doesn't sound like a very peaceful situation that Jesus was born into. But it wasn't political peace that the angels were proclaiming that night. It was a different kind of peace. It was a more spiritual or relational or inner peace. Now, the Hebrew word for peace means well-being or emotional contentment. It's the same type of thing that Jesus was referring to when he said, there's a kind of peace, my kind of peace, he said, that I want you to experience. And it's a kind of peace that has the power to calm your greatest anxieties and doubts. But actually experiencing that elusive condition of peace is a pretty different story in the world we live in. Experiencing true and lasting inner peace is difficult because we have so many things in our lives that try to rob us of our peace. Maybe you're facing, or a loved one right now is facing a really, really serious health situation. And you worry, and you are afraid, and worst case scenarios play out. It's really hard to have inner peace when something like that's going on. Or maybe you just broke up with the person you've been dating, or maybe you lost your job, or maybe there are draining people that you work with, or draining people in your family that you're just about ready to go spend time with. Maybe there are financial pressures in your life. Maybe there are emotional hurts that you've experienced. Maybe there are things that you worry about. Maybe you're stuck in an unhappy marriage. And it's not just us. Even the great Apostle Paul talked about a time when he said, God opened the door for me to tell others about Christ. But even in that, he said, I still found no peace of mind. Even Jesus didn't always experience inner peace. You remember when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane just before his arrest, beating and crucifixion. Jesus is, I think, amazingly transparent with his disciples when he says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow, even to the point of death. I mean, it's hard to have and experience true inner peace when anxiety and suffering come into your life. Now, recently, Duke University did a study on peace of mind, and they concluded that there are 8 key factors in finally finding inner peace. Number 1, they said the absence of resentment and bitterness. They said holding a grudge is a major factor in unhappiness. Number 2, they said don't live in the past. They said people who fixate on past mistakes and failures don't experience much peace. Number 3, they said don't waste your energy fighting conditions you can't change. Number 4, they said whenever you're feeling anxious and stressed, don't withdraw from people. That's our tendency for some of us, is to withdraw from people when we're under stress and anxiety. They said don't do that. Number 5, they said refuse to indulge in self-pity. They said accept the fact that nobody goes through life without some sorrow and misfortune. Number 6, this Duke study said value things like love and loyalty, honesty and humor. Number 7, don't have unrealistic expectations. He said when what you demand to see in yourself and others is not very attainable, you're not likely to have much inner peace. And last, number 8, they says do things for other people. They said self-centered people rank the lowest on experiencing happiness and peace. And I think all those are good and valid suggestions. But in Philippians chapter 4, verse 7, it talks about an inner peace that's on a different kind of level. It's the kind of peace that is unlike what we humans can muster up on our own. What is this peace that transcends all understanding? Well, it's when you're going through something really hard, something confusing, something scary, something difficult, and yet somehow you experience a sense of peace that makes no sense in light of the reality that you're facing. That's what the Bible talks about. Some of you have heard me before talk about my sister Julie. She died about 25 years ago of cancer, or 20 or so. She was 44 years old. How many of you are 44 years old or older? Raise your hand if you're 44 or older. I've had the gift of life 19 years more than my sister Julie got, and some of you have had many more than 19, past 44. And we should thank God every day for your life, your health, the time that you have with the people that you love. Sometimes a person with cancer, if it's bad enough, they get to the point where they realize they're not going to get better. And then they have to come to terms with, this is really happening to me. My time on earth is coming to a close. And it's got to be a scary thought, no matter who you are. It has to be a surreal thought. Well, that was the reality that my sister was facing. And I saw myself this peace that transcends human understanding. I know it's possible because I personally witnessed. In spite of her failing health and eventually thinning body, loss of hair and so forth, she radiated a sense of calm and confidence. She was like, well, I know I'm going to heaven pretty soon. She talked about going to heaven like we would talk about going to the mall or the grocery store. Like, yeah, the kids are going to come by, we're going to get some pizza, we're going to watch the game, and then I'll go to heaven. You know, it wasn't trite, but she just had a sense of confidence and a sense of peace that transcended, to myself, human logic. It transcended the normal human capacity to have peace. It was a higher level of inner peace than people can experience without God in their lives. So how can you have that kind of peace with the things that you sometimes face? Well, I'm certainly not going to say, well, just put your trust and faith in God, and when you do, you'll immediately be overwhelmed by this incredible sense of peace. There is no spiritual formula, no certain words that you say or little 3 steps that you follow that will provide instant results every time. But I do have 2 factors that I think are important ingredients for finally finding peace. First, put your trust in God. Now, I just said I wouldn't say that, but I did say it, and here's why I did. Isaiah chapter 26 says that God will keep in perfect peace the person who keeps his or her mind fixed or focused on God, who trusts the Lord in all circumstances because he is the rock eternal, the foundation. He is the bedrock of experiencing true inner peace, is knowing that your life, your eternal soul, your future are all in God's strong and capable hands. Now, if you watch much football, who doesn't? Many times you've probably seen maybe a defensive back or a safety who's trying to tackle a guy, whack at the guy's arm, trying to knock the ball loose, right? Trying to, what they call strip the ball and cause a fumble. It's a really great play when a guy on your team does it, and it's kind of a cheap shot when a guy on the other team does it, I think. But some running backs have developed such strength in their arms and their hands that they're going to hold on to the ball no matter what. Now I want you to think of yourself for a moment that you are the football, and the defensive players trying to strip the ball are the different hits that come into your life from time to time. Maybe there's a big financial setback, and it's like a guy tomahawking the ball out of here, right? Or maybe there's a relational upheaval, and that tries to dislodge you. Or there's a health problem, or an expensive car repair, or a rebellious teenager, or a workplace stress, or a marital problem. They come one after another at different times, and they just try to knock the heck out of you. They try to strip the ball, right? But if you're the football, and all the defensive players are the various adversities, then who's the one carrying the ball? Well, I think it's God. And when your life, when your soul, your future are in the strong and capable hands of God, he is not going to fumble you. Nothing is going to knock you loose. Whatever hits life throws at you, he will hold on to you. He won't let go because he is the rock eternal. So I think the first step in experiencing peace in your life is to put your life into God's hands. And maybe some of us need to do that today. Maybe you've already done that. Maybe you need to do it in a different way today. Maybe you need to say, God, I really, really need your help right now. I need your protection in my life. I need your healing. I'm being hit really bad in this area or that area. And I need to know that you're going to hold on to me. And you're never going to let go. And if you feel that way, then I want to take just a moment, a quiet moment right now, just between you and God in prayer, and for you to say, God, I need you to be my rock eternal. Let's just take a second. If you need to pray that prayer right now, just say, God, I need you to hold on to me and to never let go. The second big ingredient to finally finding and experiencing inner peace is replace anxiety with trusting God and with gratitude for what you have. Shift your focus. Shift it off of your fears. Try to shift it away from your problems, away from your pain, away from your disappointment, and onto the blessings you have in life. Be grateful for what you have, because being thankful tends to produce inner peace. Now, a couple of months ago, co-founder of Microsoft, Paul Allen, died of cancer at the age of 65, and 2 years older than me. You know the only difference between me and that guy? He has had a net worth of $20 billion. I have a net worth somewhere south of $20 billion. Just barely, maybe. But what if a person that was a billionaire, contacted you and said that they're going blind, but there's a new surgery that could be done that if they can find another person who would donate their eyes, they could be transplanted into their, to them, and they would be able to see. And they offered you, what would you take? What would you demand to give up your eyes for the rest, go blind for the rest of your life if they would give you $5 million? Would you do that for $5 million in your bank account to do with whatever, if you had to live the rest of your life blind, would you do that? Would you do it for $10 million? What if someone was going deaf and they said, for your gift of hearing, I'll give you $5 million. You'll have to be deaf the rest of your life. I'll give you $5 million. What if someone said, for the gift of the ability to walk, you're going to have to be in the wheelchair for the rest of your life, but I'll give you $10 million. I wonder if you'd do that. $10 million, it's a lot of money. Well, if you can see, that means you have a gift of at least $10 million. I wouldn't give up my sight for $10 million, even though my kids would go, Daddy, you don't have that much longer, please. Just, take the money and give it to us. But I think I have maybe a few more years. But you got, so you want to see what I'm thinking about? You got like $10 million. You got $10 million in hearing. You got 5 or 10 or 25 million in the ability to walk and to have a mind that's intact and a family who loves you. You have a lot to be thankful for. And if you have the gift of eternal salvation, and what Christ did for us on the cross, heaven forever, awaiting you, you are truly, truly a blessed person. Focusing on what you don't have, on what isn't right, on what bad things might happen will fill you with fear and anxiety. Focusing on all the things you do have, all the great, wonderful things that are in your life will tend to produce inner peace and contentment. So I think those are two pretty simple but very profound truths. Put your trust in God. Say, God, my life is in your hands, and I know things are going to come down the pike in my life that are going to be tough, but I know I can trust you, to watch over me. And second, replace anxiety with gratitude. Focusing on your blessings and all that you already have will tend to lead to inner peace. Well, as we promised, we have a little short children's Christmas program that we're going to end the service with. And so they're going to come up here today, and I got to kill about 90 seconds.